program was recorded at RILA's annual logistics conference in Orlando, Florida. I'm pleased to welcome Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Brain, Russell Goodman.
The state of the retail supply chain. Joining us for a conversation on that is Brian Gibson, Professor of Supply Chain Management at Auburn University. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Russell.
Brian, the state of the supply chain, of the retail supply chain, you're doing a study on that right now. What's the focus this year?
Well, this year we're going to look at some of the same things we looked at in 2009. We'll look at the major issues that the retailers are facing. We'll look at some of the best-in-class strategies that they're employing. What are they actually doing to cope with the challenges of the environment and the economy today? We'll also be looking at what are they thinking about in the future to deal with the challenges in the ever-changing retail situation.
Now, you refer to we. Who is engaged in the research that we're talking about?
Well, I have a research team at Auburn University with some of my colleagues, and there's 4 of us working on the project. We also partner with the folks from the Retail Industry Leaders Association, and we're sponsored by Fortna this year.
Do you, at this point, have any preliminary findings? What, for instance, are you learning about retailer supply chain strategies?
Well, we're partway through the study at this point, and we've talked to about 25 retail executives that focus in the supply chain area, and they've been talking about a variety of different things. They're really focused on capacity this year. That's a big concern of theirs. That's a major issue. They're worried about transportation rates. They're worried about the economy. Those are all factors that they're very concerned about today.
Well, let's talk about issues and challenges, and let's explore what their concerns are in 2010 versus what it was that had them focusing in 2009. What's the difference?
Okay. 2009, as you'll recall, was the big E was the issue. It was all about energy. Fuel costs, diesel fuel costs in particular, and they were really focusing on what can we do to mitigate those costs. They were really worried about dealing with issues of inventory and protecting margins in a down economy. 2010, they're certainly still worried about the issue of cost, but they don't want to focus on cost at the sacrifice of service to the customer. So they're really looking at ways that we can keep costs under control and still have product on the shelf. So maybe they're doing things like going for less initial inventory in an order, but coming up with faster replenishment. They're looking at ways to better utilize their capacity overall and work with carriers that are financially strong and capable of providing good service at a reasonable rate.
Now, again, I know that your study at this point is only halfway through, but by the time it's concluded, what's your feeling? What do you think will be the solutions or the answers that they have adopted to meet the challenges that you've outlined?
I think mainly they're investing in their management teams, because as things become a little bit more hectic and a little bit more of a situation where they need to be very responsive, they've got to have the right people in place, and they have to be well trained. So they're going to continue to invest in their teams to make sure that they have the skills to deal with an ever-changing scenario, whether it be the situation of the Far East and capacity coming out of the Far East, or transportation rates that are changing, merchants that are changing inventory strategies. They have to be very responsive to those things. They also are looking at issues related to how do we deploy some technology selectively. They're not going to make wholesale changes in their technology purchases, but what can we do to make us more efficient? What can we do to make things more visible across the entire supply chain and create more rapid flows through the supply chain all the way to the store shelf? That's really a big target today.
What are you telling the viewer who says, I want to know what the key capabilities are of the best retail supply chains out there?
Well, that's kind of a fun part of our research, and we started looking at that in 2009, and we found 4 things that were very important. It was the people aspect and investing in high quality people and making sure you have the right team that matches your strategy. It was also issues of having a very dynamic distribution network that could handle different flows where we turned the pipeline on and off. It was also issues related to making sure you had the distribution network that could support different levels of product flow. Maybe that meant your own facilities. Maybe it meant having some third-party flexibility in there with some of their capabilities as well. And also goal alignment, making sure that everybody across the organization, the merchants, the folks in the stores, and the supply chain folks all worked very well together. We didn't see that so much in the past. As we move into 2010, we're looking at issues and seeing people talking about issues such as inventory. Are we going to change our mix? Do we need to cut back on the variety and the depth and focus on the high volume, high turn types of items? Those are very important to people. They're looking at what can we do to increase the visibility and the flexibility. Those are all issues that they're looking to build into their best-in-class capabilities. But certainly they're all aware that it's a moving target, and what makes you a best-in-class organization this year may not help you next year. So they're always pursuing what can we do to get better.
Brian, I suppose the real value in any information or data is in its use. So moving forward, what plans do you have for the State of the Retail Supply Chain study?
Well, we put our first white paper out in about October of 2009. And as we developed the 2010 study, we're going to look forward to capturing some data from folks, either via surveys or audience participation at conferences, put together our white paper, and have that ready by about June of 2010 for dissemination. We're doing a lot of conference presentations and really getting the word out to people in very succinct fashion, very management-oriented white papers, articles in magazines, and presentations that we do. Looking forward, we hope to expand from the idea of a US-based study to perhaps bring in not just brick and mortar retailers, but the internet retailers, and see what their issues and challenges and strategies are. Also look to Europe, look to the Far East, look to South America. Down the road, we're really taking a walk before we run approach to this and make sure that we get everything right, but then expand it to more of a global type of study. Hope to capture some real insights in what's going on out in the industry.
Brian, it sounds like you're involved in some very valuable information for the retail industry. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome, Russell.
Brian Gibson, Auburn University, speaking with us today about the state of the retail supply chain. Thanks for watching.